all you can say is I am, but you don't add anything, not this or that. I am. In the Old Testament, God is asked, who are you? And that's perhaps the most profound sentence in the Old Testament is, I am that I am, where God defines him, her, itself as the I am, as the essence identity of all forms. And also another beautiful sentence in the Old Testament, as you know, the Old Testament is a mixed, the New Testament, the Bible is a mixed bag of fantastic things and other things. But I like to look for the jewels that are there. Another beautiful statement that points to all this is, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Now these words are all synonymous. Be refers to being. Still is the state of consciousness without thought, stillness. Being and stillness, the same thing. And know, there is a deep knowing in that. In fact, that is because that is the source of all intelligence. There's a deep knowing, but from the point of view of the conceptual mind, it looks like unknowing. It looks like ignorance, because it's not knowing through concepts anymore. There's a deeper knowing, and this is where what we call wisdom arises, which is very different from intelligence, the IQ kind of intelligence. The wisdom that the world needs, not more intelligence, please no, but wisdom, that yes, be still and know that I am, it is the I am of the I am of being, God. Oh, here we come to a difficult word, but they're all synonymous. What is God then? I rarely talk about God because you can't really, it's so transcendent that whatever you say would be very limited. As you know, human language and human thought is relatively limited. How can I make statements about the ultimate transcendent reality?
What causes déjà vu, which is a French phrase that means to see things twice? Free will exists, but you don't have it. Free will only belongs to the soul. And you're probably wondering what free will in the soul has to do with seeing things twice. This is because you're on one side of the mirror and your soul is on another side of the mirror. Your soul already experienced everything that you're getting ready to experience light years before you did, because your soul doesn't operate out of time. So for you, it's all momentary. At the beginning of this incarnational cycle that you're in right now, in this lifetime, your soul read your whole entire story from beginning to the end. And at the end of the book, or at the end of the chapter, or at the end of your story, your soul agreed to live out this specific lifetime that you're living out right now, to either pay off karmic debt or to come here as a mission to help Earth ascend to the fifth dimension. Because in the quantum realm, everything is interconnected. So the higher beings can't evolve until the lower beings evolved. So we're helping you so we can help ourselves. And what we're trying to help you guys see is that everything is destiny. Every thought you think, every urge you have, every experience that you go through, and every action that you take was pre-planned and preordained. It only feels like it's you doing it because you are a slave or a servant to your soul. You have no will whatsoever. You operate out of the will of your soul. For example, if I were to close my eyes are going to listen every time I will myself to close my eyes. Because my eyes are my permanent, eternal servants. They have no will of their own. And if they did have a will of their own, they wouldn't be in perfect harmony with the rest of my body. If all of my different body parts had a will and a mind of their own, they wouldn't be as synchronized. So through oneness comes understanding. So what happens is, when you come through this plane of existence, your soul already agreed in the soul contract to live out this life. Your soul already knows how everything's going to play out. It's only you who doesn't know. So when a crucial moment comes up, your soul's like, okay, pay attention. You know how when somebody watches a movie and they saw it before you and this is your first time seeing it, and they pause the movie and go, pay attention, like this part is important. That's what your soul is doing. And then you may have times in your story or in your life where you get that deja vu moment, and maybe something important is not going on. But that deja vu that you're feeling is that your soul is remembering, oh yeah, I did this already. Oh, I remember doing that. And because you're connected to your soul, you can feel your soul's feelings. So all the people that were meant to ascend during this time were already predestined to ascend. We were already picked before we even came here. Because we all come to this planet with certain different levels of souls. We are not all in the same ranking. We are not all on the same level. So when we came to Earth, we all came for different reasons. Most of the people here came here for karmic reasons, but the chosen ones came here for missionary reasons. To wake up a specific select few that have been programmed to be asleep for a particular time. Because it's important for them to learn the degrees on this planet before they learn the degrees of their original origin. So when you have that deja vu moment, that is just your soul remembering the experience that you already went through. You are just an instrument of your soul. You have no will of your own because you're not in your soul state. So everything that's going to happen in your life is going to happen whether you like it or not. And the fact that you like it or don't like it was already pre-coded and pre-planned as well. Because you not liking something or liking something could cause you or make the difference between you making one decision over another. That's how everything is able to be in harmony. If everything in the universe had a mind of its own, the universe would not be harmonious. It would be a complete mess. It'd be like watching a band concert and everybody all the different instruments are just doing their own thing on the side. Your life is your soul reading your story. And as your soul is reading your story, your story is coming to life and becoming a reality. So your soul is really dreaming. But the dream feels real. All dreams do.
Wow, this cow here decided to feed on some leaves, and the dog decided to collaborate with them, even get some for themselves and go try eating them some far away. Oh no, this dog took the leaves to the other cow there, the cow. Wow, this is a caring dog.
Why did nobody tell me that there might be a 10-kilometer thick layer of diamond on Mercury? Scientists announced this in June. Mercury has a ton of carbon. It formed around the sun in a carbon-rich cloud. So Mercury has a ton of carbon, and it used to have volcanoes and a magma ocean full of carbon. And when that all dried up, it left behind a surface that is darker than the other planets, and there's actually patches of graphite, which is a type of carbon. And so scientists knew that underneath the surface was a carbon mantle, and they thought that it was graphene, because that's what would make sense. So scientists went and looked at old data from a spacecraft around Mercury and found that it might be a different carbon allotrope. Diamond instead of graphene. They don't know exactly how the diamond got there. It's possible that the ancient magma ocean crystallized into the diamond layer. But the more likely scenario is even crazier. They think that carbon in the liquid core crystallized into diamond, which floated to the top and got thicker and thicker until it was 10 kilometers deep. And if that's what happened, we have to consider that Earth's core has carbon. And maybe there's a diamond layer under our feet.
Do you understand the dark
Legal.
sentences?
Undoing God's Law. This is from 1893, Dictionary of Arts and Sciences, Encyclopedia Britannica. So legal, translated, literally means undoing God's law. So are these people anti-God and anti-Christ? The answer is yes. Legalese. The legal words, language, terms, and meanings, either written or spoken, and combinations of them that deem something as illegal, meaning undoing God's law. A style of writing or speaking heavily emphasizing the abstruse technical vocabulary of the law to the point where a speech or document may be incomprehensible to non-specialists. You see, they're doing this on purpose. Oh, and that was from Wordnik, okay? They're doing this on purpose so that we're confused. Let's read this again. A style of writing or speaking heavily emphasizing the abstruse technical vocabulary of the law to the point where a speech or document may be incomprehensible to non-specialists. This is why we think that we need to hire an attorney, because they're going to speak the foreign language called legal. Okay, let's...
5 cool facts about the brain. Number 1, when a person is heavily intoxicated, the brain can't form new memories. So it's not that they forgot the memories next day, they just didn't form them. Number 2, the brain is composed of 75% water. So when you're sweating a lot, your brain is actually shrinking. Number 3, the brain is the fattiest organ in the body. It's composed of 60% fat. Number 4, the brain continues to develop until you're 25 years old. And lastly, 95% of our decisions are subconscious, meaning that the majority of our actions and behaviors is due to brain activity that is beyond our conscious awareness.
A team of scientists just announced that they are pretty much convinced that they found something crazy on Venus, which could potentially, maybe, indicate that there's life there. Allegedly. A few years ago, this team detected a molecule called phosphine in the atmosphere of Venus. Now, on Earth, phosphine is created by microorganisms, life living in very low oxygen environments. Venus is a very low oxygen environment. When they found this, they were like, oh my God, is this evidence of life on Venus? But then a bunch of follow-up studies were done and nobody else was finding the same thing. And scientists knew that the clouds of sulfuric acid on Venus are so acidic that even the most extreme life on Earth couldn't exist there. So basically, nobody believed those findings. But it turns out that everyone else was observing Venus at a different time in its day and night than the original measurements. So the original researchers doubled down and took way more measurements, and not only did they continue to find phosphine, but they also found ammonia. Bear with me. Ammonia neutralizes the sulfuric acid in Venus's atmosphere, which means it would lower the acidity to an amount that extreme microorganisms could tolerate it. So now there's an environment in which organisms could survive and a molecule which historically has been created by microorganisms. At this point, either life is creating this phosphine or there's a chemical process that we don't know about that's creating it, which is also cool. And as far as we know, ammonia and sulfuric acid shouldn't be able to coexist without something producing the ammonia, and it doesn't mean it's life. But we hope it's life.
The average life of a chicken is supposed to be 5 to 7 years. But the chickens that people are eating today are fully grown by day 40 and they're on the shelves by day 50. And then that's why eating chicken is the #1 reason for colon in men.
Damn.
Yeah, they don't tell you these things.
So many people eat chicken. They always think that chicken is better. Like, oh, I don't eat red meat, I just eat chicken.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to drink a Coca-Cola. I'm going to drink a diet Coca-Cola.
So bad.
Number 2 thing you should never say to them, don't tell them that they are gaslighting you.
There is absolutely no point in telling your abuser that they're abusive. When we say they live in a different reality, they really do. They perceive the world through cognitive distortions and logical fallacies. And this helps facilitate the belief that they are victims. This also makes it so that they're not able to draw the connection between their behavior and your reaction to their behavior. They operate from value systems rooted in entitlement, objectification, expectation of submission. So when you issue natural consequences to their abusive behavior, they feel like they're being abused. That's when they point the finger at you, telling you that you are abusive. And that's when you go internally, right? You self-reflect, you Google search, you examine yourself, but eventually you figure it out. You figure out their definitions are incorrect. They are misusing and weaponizing terms. And because you've educated yourself on abuse and tactics and boundaries, you can see them blame shifting and avoiding accountability. You can see them twisting the narratives and leaving out pieces of information. And you start to see how they use logical fallacies and faulty thinking to fuel all of their arguments. You learn about cognitive distortions and you realize the way they see the world is actually faulty. If you start calling them an abuser, you're giving them one more thing to fuel their victim story. Because only abusers point the finger and call you abusive. When you start to see that someone is abusive, either overtly or covertly, there is no point in telling them that they're abusive. The only logical thing you can do is plan your exit.
No gaslighter thinks that they are gaslighting. There is an almost delusional quality to narcissism. They believe they are communicating clearly. They are entitled enough to believe that they get to have the upper hand, and they don't think there should be consequences for their behavior because they, of course, should never have to face a consequence, and they don't think their behavior is bad in the first place. Telling them that they are doing something like gaslighting, it doesn't work. Gaslighting is a tactic. It's a way for them to overpower, destabilize you, and keep you down.
Wait, hold on here. So the iPhone came out in 2007. The touchscreen was revolutionary, but Casio came out with a touchscreen in 1984, and no one talks about it? What? Hold on. 1984, Casio, digital watch specialist, came out with a touchscreen technology and nobody's even heard of it and no one gives them any recognition. While the iPhone came out in 2007 and everybody loves it. Look at this ingenious idea that Casio came out with. Not only is it a digital watch, hidden calculator. Let me show you more. Checks the temperatures. Tells you the weather. 80s. Musical watch. Pulse watch. Takes your blood pressure. Goodness me. Casio are kings.
Did you know Jesus only mentions two things that he wants you to guard against in this life? Amid everything he could have said, he says, these are the two things I want you to fight against. I want you to watch out for. I want you to be aware of the influence in your life. And they're the same two things that Paul finishes this entire list of explaining what people will look like in the end times. And he gets to these final two things. And he says, because of these two things, avoid these people. This is what people will look like. Where he goes through this whole list, where he says people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient, unappeasable, lacking self-control, treacherous, reckless. And he gets all the way to the end of this list. And the final two things are, number one, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. And Jesus said, one of the two things, he says, I want you to be on guard against the love of money, possessions, the thorny soil that will come in and choke the seed of the word of God. This is scary to me. Living in the wealthiest country to ever exist, and Jesus is constantly talking about being aware of this and then having a heart for the poor. So I feel the fear of the Lord on this, and I don't just want to inspire you to hear these words. I want to move you to action. I put a link in my bio for Compassion International to sponsor impoverished children. I believe this is the most trustworthy Christian agency taking care of the poor. But it doesn't stop there. The second thing Jesus says to guard against is the last thing in this list. And then it goes on and says, avoid such people. It emphasizes the final thing in this list where it says this: lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, and having the appearance of godliness, yet denying its power. And Jesus says, I want you to be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees. Be on guard against religious people who elevate customs and traditions above loving people, above hearing the true gospel. They shut the love of God in your face by trying to exert power over you.
This is the coolest scientific paper I've read in a while. A big question in science is whether evolution is driven by gradual changes over time in reaction to an equally changing environment. In other words, is it possible for evolution to happen abruptly? Because most of what we see in evolution has taken millions of years to happen. For example, we know from scientific evidence that it took approximately 6 million years for us to evolve from our ape-like ancestors to what we are today. So knowing that, it seems scientifically improbable to develop a major evolutionary trait overnight. But the thing is, we do have biological elements that suddenly appear, and scientists have no clue how or why. It remains a total scientific mystery. And one of those scientific mysteries is in all of our bodies right now. Myelin, the fatty protective coating that insulates our nerve cells, suddenly appears in the evolutionary tree of vertebrates 500 million years ago. There is no trace of myelin prior to the arrival of vertebrates in the ancestral line. This is mind-blowing information for several reasons. Firstly, myelin is arguably the most significant innovation for our nervous systems to ever occur in the animal kingdom. This one development allowed vertebrates lightning fast transmission of information across long distances from head to toe practically instantaneously. That would not be possible without myelin. As a result, the leap in cognitive abilities between vertebrates and invertebrates is dramatically significant because of this single change. And it's not only cognitive. Think of the physical speed between dogs, humans, and dolphins versus invertebrates like slugs, worms, and starfish. Here's the second mind-blowing factor. We have two different types of myelin. We have Schwann cells for our body and oligodendrocytes for our brain. It is very specific. Up until now, we had no idea how this was even possible, knowing what we know about evolution. And now we have the answer. A new study published in the journal Cell discovered that the genetic instructions to make myelin were slipped into our vertebral ancestors' DNA by a virus. A virus gave us myelin, like COVID or the flu. How and why did this virus give us this incredibly advantageous trait? It came from retroviral DNA. Myelin is the result of an ancient virus that embedded its viral genetic code into our DNA that has now become a permanent fixture. And it's not the only one. Surprisingly, 40% of our DNA comes from retroviral infections. Interestingly, there is only one vertebrate in the entire world that did not develop myelin, and it's the lamprey eel. Just add it to the list to all the mysterious and strange facts about eels.
This cat doesn't like people touching their stuff. Oh, look at this. This is one intelligent cat.
Are you tired of snakes in your yard? Simply add a tablespoon of garlic and onion to 15 ounces of water, shake it up, and you're ready. Spray it around the perimeter of your yard. Turns out garlic and onions are a natural snake repellent as they both contain sulfonic acid. So, mix yours up today and watch those snakes disappear.
Move over, Arrakis. We just found a stellar object covered in sugar. Arakoth, a Kuiper belt object just beyond the orbit of Neptune, is the most distant solar system object ever visited by a spacecraft. It's a small, irregularly shaped world, reddish in colour, and was formed from two planetesimals that collided and stuck together, making it about 36 kilometres across at its widest, and it is covered in methanol ice. This discovery, made by scientists in the US and France, showed that the 1.8 billion years of cosmic radiation that has bombarded this methanol ice was capable of creating sugar-related compounds like glucose and ribose. These sugars are crucial for life, forming part of RNA and lipids. This finding provides credibility to theories that suggest asteroids from bodies like Arakoth could have delivered organic molecules to the early Earth, potentially playing a role in the origins of life. Pretty sweet news if you ask me. Follow for more.
There's actually scientifically been proven that men fall in love through a hormone called vasopressin, and women fall in love through oxytocin. And oxytocin is released in a woman when we're having sexual intercourse or we're close with them, cuddling.
Very intimate.
Guess when vasopressin is released for men? when they're stressed. So essentially,
oh my god,
the more you stress your man out, the more he's gonna fall in love with you.
No wonder my man loves me so much.
Guys like it when you're mean to them more than when you're nice to them. Especially when you're starting to date someone and they're not fully interested in you yet. The worst thing you can literally do is like dote over them.
Fall at their feet.
Have you heard of the red string theory?
I haven't.
So I guess there's this like urban legend where basically you and your soulmate are connected by a red string. And no matter where you go, you're always connected to this person. So at some point in your life, you're bound to meet them or come across them. So sometimes people have stories where they've met their lover, but it wasn't their lover at the time, or they keep running into this person, or like weird things happen where they just like keep coming into each other's life. Maybe he's got like a girlfriend at the time, like a little trail of you've seen each other before, you've been here before, you've met before, but then all of a sudden it's almost like the universe keeps like pushing you guys together. The red string theory, and I think it's actually pretty interesting.
What did medieval English sound like? A good shorthand way to figure out what medieval English sounds like is to take all vowels and pronounce them as you would in French and pronounce every letter. The word for wife would be pronounced weef. The word for house would be pronounced hus. The word knight, knicht. Here is what the Lord's Prayer would have sounded like in Middle English, probably sometime in the 14th century. Our Father that art in heavenes, hallowed be thy name. Thy realm or kingdom come to be. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
I just learned that if you get a migraine and you want to get rid of it fast, because I suffer from migraines, I've suffered from them forever, all you gotta do is get as hot as water as you can handle and soak your feet in the water.
You say that putting your feet in hot water is gonna help your migraine? No side effects? Actually, yes. You see, the warmth dilates the blood vessels in your feet and pulls the blood away from your head, and that reduces the pressure on the blood vessels that were causing your migraine.
Oh, interesting. As interesting as this hack here that Good Vibes guy have for surviving in the jungle. Let's see what he's up to. Oh, man, this is a lot of tape here that was used. What? Oh. Humans are just incredible.
In science news, what the holy did you guys create? A lab out of Tokyo decided to try to make living skin out of human cell cultures in order to have a robotic skin that acts more similarly to our own. Now, when I first saw this, honestly, I thought surely that's silicone, but no, it's actual human tissue. One of the big problems for robotic skins is that they don't have that strength and elasticity that ours have, so why not create something that's alive and can heal? What you're looking at here is the actual anchoring to the tissue matrix, and it actually has elasticity and moves a lot like our skin. They also want to add sebaceous glands, a complete circulatory system, nerve endings, and a living skin that can heal. Although I think that makes it susceptible to infection. Aside from the extraordinarily creepy aspects of this could be a game changer for people with amputations. Imagine having a robotic limb that you can actually feel. Something that functions very much like your actual skin. I do, however, think that sometimes scientists spend too much time in the lab and just forget how goddamn creepy things are sometimes. I am going to have nightmares.
If these things happen to you in public, it means that you have a high frequency or good energy. It also means that you're most likely a light worker or a chosen one. When you go to the drive-thru and there's nobody there, whatever fast food restaurant it is, and then all of a sudden a bunch of people show up, you have high energy. This could be the same for literally anywhere. You can go to a grocery store and there could be nobody there, and when you arrive, all of a sudden a bunch of people start coming. While walking around, if there are children around, they'll stare at you. And it's usually because the children's spirit or soul recognizes your good energy. Dogs and cats will also look at you. You will have butterflies or little animals or little birds following you as well. And of course, you're going to be seeing synchronicities like 111, 333, all that stuff. And of course, you're probably going to get some hate. Some people's frequencies are too low that they just can't vibe with yours. If any of these things happen to you, you have high divine energy.
never really talked about what I worked on at NASA, but it's really cool. I worked a lot on GPS. Okay, so GPS doesn't track you. Basically, these satellites are letting off signals. They're like lighthouses in space, and your phone or whatever receiver you're using picks up these signals and triangulates your location basically based on how long it took that signal to get to you. There are currently over 30 GPS satellites and even more from other countries because not everyone uses GPS. And each of these satellites is letting off these signals in a huge spread, so big that it actually passes Earth on either side. Now, the unintentional part is that we can actually hypothetically use those signals that are passing Earth on the moon. Like, if we do it right, we can use Earth GPS satellites and satellites from other countries on the moon. So these signals would travel past Earth through 250,000 miles of space to be picked up by a special receiver around the moon so that we can have GPS on the lunar surface and in orbit around the moon. That not only saves a ton of money so that we don't need GPS satellites around the moon, but it's also really cool.
Man, my friends, wonderful sauce. Did you know that about GPS? There's always interesting stuff here that we come across. But if you have come across some of those interesting stuff, leave some comments, hit the like button, and now, those guys that have subscribed today, you see, you're wonderful souls and even deserve some round of applause. And not just that, even a gift, something to feed on. You see, that is not normal or everyday. A person like yourself clicks this video. A good vibe soul like you, my friend. It's a blessing to have you around. You see? Good vibe soul. Please, here is the gift that I would like to give you or to share with you. Listen. Do not deceive yourself. If any one of you thinks he is wise by the standards of this age, he should become a fool, so that he may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness in God's sight. As it is written, He catches the wise in their craftiness. And again, the Lord knows that the thoughts of the wise are fertile. So then, no more boasting about men. All things are yours. 1 Corinthians 3 from 18. Wonderful source. That's from the Guide of Life. There's a lot of wisdom in that book. You see? May it be guided by those words in our lives today. Let's give thanks. Father Lord, great Father, thank you for this day, Father. Thank you for the words from the book of wisdom, Father. Help us to understand and to manifest on them, Father. Dear Lord, thank you for this soul, Father, that has watched all this way, dear Lord. Thank you for their tolerance, Father. Bless them abundantly. Dear Lord, intervene in their lives, Father, in their needs, their desires, their wants, their fears, everything, Lord, that they may be needing in their lives. Please, Father, grant them according to your will. Forgive us all our sins, Father, and always be with us at all times. In Jesus' mighty name, we do pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Good vibes, my friend. I wish you uplifting from God from wherever you are. Peace and love be with you till next time. Good vibes. Bye bye.